Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Trout. Today I'm bringing you guys my medium armor stamina Templar build for the Wolfhunter patch. So let's go ahead and get into the gear. We're using 2-piece Selines, 5-piece Nightmother's Gaze, and 5-piece Bone Pirate Satyrs, and 2-piece Agility on the back bar. We're using tri-stack glyphs on our head, chest, and legs, and max stamina glyphs on our gloves, shoulders, belt, and boots. Our chest is heavy armor, and our belt is light armor. This is so we take advantage of the resistance granted by our natural armor pieces. And with that being said, our boots, legs, gloves, shoulders, and helmet are medium armor. And all 7 of our gear pieces are impenetrable. We're using Bone Pirate Tatters jewelry with 1 stamina recovery enchantment, 2 weapon damage enchantments, and all 3 are robust trait. Our weapon of choice is a battle axe of the Nightmother's Gaze. It is Nirnhoned, and we're using double damage poisons on our front bar. For our back bar, we're using an infused Sword of Agility with a Berserker enchantment, and a Shield of Agility that is Nirnhoned with a max stamina enchantment. Alright, so the reason why I'm using these sets together is because Stamina's Templar's Toolkit tells us that we want weapon crit and weapon damage due to us having 6% more weapon damage and 10% more critical strike damage. But we also lack a major fracture source on this class, which is one of the highest sources of damage in the game. So this set fits perfectly, and you can also run this in heavy armor if you wish. I'm using Bone Pirate's Tatters because I tried to get away from the set, I really did. If you look over here on the right, you can see I tried Briarheart, Automaton, Griffin's Fury, Hulking Draugr. I tried all kinds of shit. Spriggans, and I cannot get away from Bone Pirate's Tatters. It's just too damn good. I'm playing an Imperial, and my sustain kind of sucks. I mean, it does suck. I mean, Stamina Templar is the worst sustaining class in the game. This set feels like it's almost a must. I mean, that 4k stamina, over 4k stamina, and that 275 stamina recovery is huge. I almost feel like the set's a must-have, whether in your heavy or medium. It's a phenomenal set. And then I love Selines. A lot of people like to use Troll King here if you want a defensive set. If you're not that good at line of sighting, if you're still learning how to line of sight. But I'm in medium armor, and I don't really care about my survivability. I feel like if I ran a survivability set here, like Troll King or something, I'd rather play heavy armor. But other than that, Selines just hits like a max truck, procs pretty much on cooldown, adds another max stamina bonus too, which is nice. And forces our enemies to move. And if they don't move, because they're locked up in our snares and say they don't have snare removal or something like that, they get fucked up. This bear on this tooltip here has 15.5k physical damage. And with our pretty high penetration on this build, you're getting fucked up. We're using a battle axe to double damage poisons because that adds a shit ton of pressure. Note that those are unblockable too. Like that bleed that procs from the axe. And the 2 dots here, they're totally unblockable. With the changes to block made during, I think it was Somerset, or it might have been Cockmeat Shitty, I can't remember. We're using 2-piece Agility on the back bar to up our Vigor tooltip, because that's where it's placed. I'll go over that in a little bit. And to proc that infused Berserker glyph, which I have a rotation for, which I'll go over later in the video as well. Because we don't need Nightmother's Gaze on the back bar. This set procs instantly, affects everybody around you. There's no fucking cooldown on this set. And it's just a very strong set. When you deal critical damage, you apply major fracture to the enemy, reducing their physical resistance by 5280 for 6 seconds. No cooldown. It has a really weird, like, slurping noise when it procs. It's really funny. You do 1 set of jabs, and all you hear is like some kind of fucking slurping noise, like machine gunning. And it's just a really strong set. I did test Spriggans. Spriggans was better, but Spriggans didn't have the weapon crit. And I feel like if I want to use a set that doesn't affect my heals, I want the crit. So my heals can crit more often, I should say. I know this sounds really weird the way I'm wording it right now. Bear with me, I'm dead ass tired. Just got off a night turn. But yeah, it's just a great set. Very underrated. I like all the PvEers are deconning it ever since them changes in Somerset. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and go over the skills. Our first skill on our 2H bar is Rally. It's our burst heal. It's our major brutality source, and it's a heal over time that ticks every 2 seconds. Note that it costs 2900 stamina. It's a 33-second duration. The way the skill works is when we activate it, the longer we let it run without reactivating it, winds up building up a burst heal, and like I said, the longer we let it run, the stronger that burst heal becomes. Second skill is Reverse Slice. This is our execute. It costs 1500 stamina. And it's an instant cast ability. What this ability does is enemies take up to 300% bonus damage from this ability. Start scaling from 50% health and below. And nearby enemies get splashed by a significant amount. That tooltip says 65%. That actually scales up with Major Brutality and like continuous attacks bonus 10% weapon damage and any other sources you get. That usually, I think that usually sits around like 86 or 88% if I remember correctly. And that bonus splash damage does to nearby enemies, which are within 5 meters of the target radius too. So you got a pretty much 10 meter diameter. And the splash damage does is totally unavoidable. I actually just found out it goes through shields too. Goes through block, goes through roll dodge, rips night blades out of cloak, and really puts a hurting on enemies if they're stacked up and you do a Dawnbreaker and a Budding Jab's Dawnbreaker combo, and they're all sitting around 30 to 40% health somewhere in there usually. And you start smacking the Nightblade that thinks he can get away with all divines wearing medium armor, and he's at 5% health. You reverse slice him. The other ones all take a significant amount of splash damage from this ability. So, and like I said, it's very cheap. So, great ability. Can also proc our heavy weapons bleed too from our axe and the double damage poisons, and that splash damage can proc it onto enemies that got affected by the splash damage too. Almost forgot to go over this, which just takes the skill into a whole nother world. Third skill, Budding Jabs, our spammable Templar class ability. Costs 2,158 stamina. And it's a 1.1 second channel. Note that 0.1 is there for a reason, because of Burning Light. So Burning Light is whenever you deal damage with an Ajax Spear ability, you have a 25% chance to deal an additional 5,500 physical damage, which that scales up if I was buffed up. And this effect can occur every half second. So that 0.1 is there because it can actually proc 3 times off of Burning Jabs. It's rare, but when you do, you fuck shit up. And most of the time it procs once or twice, though. And that's pretty much your main source of damage. Note that counts as direct damage, and Burning Light counts as melee damage, too. Like, you can proc Ravager off a Binding Javelin. It's pretty comical. But other than that, it's a 70% movement speed snare on the last tick, which lasts 2 seconds, so you can land more jabs or combo a breaker. It grants us our crit bonus, which grants us 10% weapon crit for 8 seconds, which is a nice perfect buff rotation. It's not too long like Nightblade's Major Fracture, not too short like Warden's Major Fracture. I know, different buff, but you get the point. It's a very nice duration on that too. And yeah, it's just a great skill. Has a single target bonus element where the closest target to you takes a little bit more damage. And just a big ass rectangle now. It used to be a cone, and it used to not hit anything. Now it's a big rectangle, and if it's laggy, you'll still struggle with hitting things, so. But it goes through roll dodge, rips night blades out of cloak and shit, so great skill. Probably my favorite spammable in the game too, when it actually fucking hits the target. If you're not in Vivek, it's wonderful. Fourth skill, Dizzying Swing. This is our CC, it costs 2,300 stamina, has a 7-meter range, and what this ability does, it's a 1-second cast time. Character essentially winds up his sword and fucking power slams your opponent, dealing a shit ton of physical damage, stunning them for 3.5 seconds and knocking them back 4 meters. Reason why I'm using this ability over Binding Javelin is because 1, Binding Javelin costs almost 700 more stamina. 2, Binding Javelin knocks them back 8 meters, so if you're in a small man group, you can really fuck up lining up Dawnbreaker combos and shit like that, and really screw over your friendly Wardens and their Shulks, causing them to miss. And 3, it just hits harder, and it procs our weapons bleed off our axe, our double damage poisons, whereas Binding Javelin doesn't have a chance to proc those. But Binding Javelin does hit hard as a CC, which I'll go over a build using it later in this video, a variation of this using a two-handed sword and a disease glyph instead of the axe and the double damage poisons, and I use Binding Javelin on that setup. But that setup doesn't have nowhere near as high as the damage ceiling as we do on this build, or on this variant of this build. But on that, Dizzying Swing does what it says right on the tin. It's a phenomenal skill. It is block below. It's not a hard CC like Binding Javelin. Not a hard CC, so. But I also use it because Binding Javelin's reflectable and easily dodged. Whereas Dizzying Swing, if you catch your opponent off guard, you'll pretty much land them every time. So it's a really good skill. Fifth skill with Power of the Light. It's our 6-second burst skill. Great for small man too if you got some tanky fucker that you guys can't break. And what this ability does, it copies the damage the enemy takes, 20% of it to be exact, and releases it after 6 seconds as a totally, I think it's, if I remember correctly, totally unmitigatable damage since it's already been mitigated once. And this ability rips Nightblades out of cloak, goes through block, goes through roll dodge, and it also affects enemies with minor breach and minor fracture for 6 seconds during the duration of the ability, I should say, which helps our penetration up a little bit more. And it only costs almost 1400 stamina, so it's a very good skill. If you see Nightblades trying to cloak around you and keep popping in and out of stealth, cast this on them, because when that explodes after 6 seconds, it will pull them out of stealth. Our ultimate is Dawnbreaker Smiting. It's only 120 ultimate because we get 4% cost reduction from our Dawn's Wrath abilities. It does increased damage against vampires, werewolves, and pretty much everything like that. Undead. It has a strong burst damage component to it. On this tooltip it says 14k. Obviously we're not buffed. I keep saying that, so you should get that. You get the idea. And it has a very strong dot, especially with us amping up Thaumaturge and our damage over times abilities. Because, I mean, jabs counts as a damage over time. Burning Light counts as direct damage. So, but we're using an Axe Bleed and a double damage poisons. So we're amping up our dots pretty heavily. And that dot is extremely strong from this ability. It also has a knockdown stun, which lasts 2.5 seconds. And it's just, everybody loves Dawnbreaker. So, can't go wrong with Dawnbreaker Smiter. On our back bar, our first skill is Shuffle. This is our snare removal, and it gives us a passive dodge chance for 23 seconds. Note we only get 2.5 seconds of snare immunity, which fucking blows. Forward momentum blows this shit out of the water, but we need rally for the fucking burst heal. This shit is overcosted, costs 3,700 fucking stamina, a cost that reflects when it used to be able to be used in a heavy armor. So this skill needs a buff. Not gonna lie, it does. The snare immunity needs increased to match that of forward momentum at least. And the cost needs fucking drastically reduced. I mean, 3,700 stamina when you're in 5 mediums is retarded. But it's what we have for snare removal, so gotta fucking use it. Second skill, Repentance. So this ability doesn't have a cost. It has a 12 meter radius, so 24 meter diameter. And while slot, we gain minor fortitude, minor endurance, minor intellect, but it's only on this fucking bar, which increases all of our base recoveries by 10%. And what this ability does is we get to siphon pretty much resources from dead bodies around us. Note that each body can only be siphoned once. And it gives you 3k stamina and about 2k health when you're in Syria. The tooltip says 3,200 there, but with your amps and shit, it's about 2k in Syria. So it's nice. And if you're fucking if you're Zerg surfing or fucking small manning, it is a invaluable skill. It gives you so much more sustain when you're in them situations. It's unbelievable. But if you're solo, it's still really good because you need it. As an Imperial, as a Red Guard, I feel like you could probably drop it and get away with it. But it's nice burst stamina, and like there's a lot of bodies around you. Like if you're an IC too, do one set of jabs, kill a bunch of shitty skeletons, fucking repent up, go right back at the yellow ball group you're fighting. And other than that, great skill. Third skill, everybody knows this one, Resolving Vigor. 3k stamina to heal over time. Use it proactively. I hate when I see people use this skill when they're at like 20% health getting fucking reverse sliced and spin to wind. You want to use a skill like a Sork would use its shields. So you pretty much want to use it to cover you when you're on the offense, which on a Stamplar, our burst is 6 seconds. Because that's the duration of Power Light. Vigor is 5 seconds, so we get fucked at least 2 seconds. Usually 3 though. On keeping Vigor up all the time. So having a 3-second downtime guaranteed because of our burst, and the way this class is, you gotta make sure you have this up all the other time. Let's go ahead to the fourth skill. Extended Ritual. 4k Magicka, which is fucking expensive, especially considering that the only Magicka sustain we have is our base recovery. We're not in heavy armor, we don't even get Constitution. I mean, we have one piece, but what the fuck's 108 Magicka, you know what I mean? So, this ability does it. It removes 5 harmful effects from yourself, has a small little heal over time on the ground that ticks every 2 seconds for 24 seconds. allies that are fighting with you can activate the Purify synergy, removing all harmful effects on them and give them a decent little heal. And this ability triggers Sacred Ground. So while standing in your cleansing ritual, rune focus, or rite of passage, you gain minor mending for 4 seconds. It just refreshes itself if you're already in it. And it throws down a snare of 30%. So if you're running from a Zerg, you can go ahead and throw that down behind you. If you're cutting around a tower, you want them all snared by 30% so you can escape or, you know, move where the fuck you gotta move. It helps get some of them off of you. And then the ones that are running snare removal run up to you, onesie twosie, and you just fucking bust them. Save the slow fuckers for last. But, yeah, excuse my language. I work in a steel mill, so. Extended Ritual, though. Phenomenal skill. I always lay it down, too, at the start of the fight and try to kite through it for the minor mending. Alright, 5th skill. Restoring Focus. They just changed this with this patch, and it is fucking awesome now. So 1777 Magicka for a 20-second buff. That's arguably the best armor buff in the game now, as of the Wolfhunter patch. So what this armor buff does, it grants us Major Resolve, Major Ward, increasing our physical and spell resistance by 5,280. Also grants us Minor Vitality and Minor Protection, increasing our healing received and reducing our damage taken by 8%, which is awesome. And then when we stand on the rune, we get about 2,700 more physical and spell resistance. But that literally lasts only when you're standing on the rune. Like, if you see down my bottom right of my screen, it says Rune Focus Circle Bonus. You step out of it, you instantly, damn near instantly lose that bonus. But when you're on it, we're quite tanky, having almost, god damn it, quite tanky, having almost 26 point, or almost 27k spell resistance and 24k physical resistance. But the moment you step off it, it goes back down to the regular bonuses granted by our armor buffs. But the way this armor buff works, you no longer have to strafe through your runes. See, it's not refreshing. You just cast it, and you get the armor buff for 20 seconds. Our final skill is Crescent Sweep. I'm in love with this ultimate. It hits like a Mack truck. Even though I'm on a sword and board bar with it, it still hits like a Mack truck. It's only 72 ultimate. It's like an AoE end cap without all the cool shit that end cap gets, like the stun, the knockdown, and the major defile, and the passive crit chance. But what this grants us is our Age of Spear passives. We can block up to 15% more melee damage, and our critical damage is 10% more. And but other than that, it's just dirt cheap. Enemies in front of you take 66% more damage. It can proc Burning Light too, because it's an Age of Spear ability. And I'm pretty much using it on this bar for the Age of Spear passives. That 15% more melee damage block in particular. But it still hits extremely hard. And if you don't have the ultimate for a breaker, feel free to use Crescent Sweep and just smack something with it. It works very well. Alright, so let's go ahead and go over our rotation. Our first skill when we're buffing up is Rally. Then we bar swap to the back bar. If you're running up on your target, because we don't have a gap closer, so that's kind of what we're forced to do. If you're getting pressured, Restoring Focus first. If you're not getting pressured, Extended Ritual. And then Restoring Focus, because you want to be in this for that bonus 50%, like 2,700 extra resistances. And then followed up with Shuffle, so we got the Snare immunity. Then Light Attack, Vigor, that's going to proc our Infused Berserker Glyph. And then you animation cancel the Vigor with the bar swap. So once again, Light Attack, Power of the Light, Light Attack, Jabs, Light Attack, Dizzying Swing, Light Attack, Jabs, Dawnbreak right before the Power of Light goes, and Light Attack, Reverse Slice. That's going to kill the majority of the shit that you fight. As you can see, our Dawnbreaker hit our target before the Power of the Light did, which adds into its calculation. And, wow, look at that fucking heavy weapons bleed crit. God damn, almost 8k. But, yeah, you want to make sure you drop that breaker right before that PTO explodes. You can use a Greatsword and a Disease Glyph and drop Dizzying Swing for binding Javelin. You won't have it anywhere near as high as the damage ceiling as this build. I mean, it's still high, but you lose some of the height of the ceiling, but you get more reliability. So, but this is ESO, so fucking procs always win. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate the rotation at full speed. That's pretty much it. let's check our combat log to make sure that breaker hit before the power of the light. There's the power of the light. There's the dawn breaker. So power of the light can never crit, by the way, because it's copied damage. The damage going into it could have already possibly crit. Wow, look at that fucking crit right there. Holy shit. It's a nice string. But, yeah, I got my breaker out before it, which sadly didn't crit. Look at that power of the light explosion. Almost 19k on a target dummy. Note that when you're fighting, I'm going to show you guys something real quick. Note that when you're fighting, you want to kite around your opponent, make yourself harder to hit. Fucking light attack didn't go off. So you don't want to just stand there like I did when I was showing you that rotation. You want to be cutting around your target, making yourself harder to hit, you know what I mean? Then if you have to, you start getting low on Sam, put down your buffs. When you do that light attack vigor, turn it to a heavy attack. So be kiting, doing all your shit, whatever. Heavy attack, vigor. That's going to keep our stamina sustained. But I only do that when I'm about sub 45% stamina. And if I have continuous attack, I don't do that that often. You can also weave one with a dizzying swing if you want to. I do that quite often too, just because, I don't know, I just love weaving heavy attacks with dizzying swing. It's easy as hell. Once the heavy attack breaks your ankle, hit the dizzying swing button. Right. Bam. Just in case if you never learned how to weave dizzying swing, that's how you do it. With fully charged heavy attacks too. So that heavy attack grants 10% more bonus damage to that dizzying swing. So if you're fighting a tanky bastard, you could do a heavy attack, Dawnbreaker. I did a dizzying swing right there because I'm an idiot, but you'd get 10% more bonus damage on the direct damage component of Dawnbreaker. Alright, so let's go ahead and go over our champion points. Starting with the green tree, the tower. 48 to Warlord to reduce the cost to break free by 18%. 37 in the Sprinter to reduce the cost to sprint by 21%. We're not using a gap closer, so we like to run up on our opponents. We do have Major Expedition though, so it makes it easier. And sprint is actually pretty costly after a little while, so that's going to help us out. Onto the Lover, 75 in the Mooncalf to increase our stamina recovery by 14%. 49 Tenacity to increase the stamina or heavy attacks restored by 11%. And then into the Shadow. 51 into Tumbling to reduce the cost of roll dodge by 19%. You can take some of those out of Sprinter and Tumbling and put them in Shadow Ward if you find yourself blocking a lot. When I block, it's only for a second if that. So, I didn't bother investing anything into Shadow Ward. To the Blue Tree, the Apprentice. 32 into Bless to increase our healing done by 8%. Onto the Astronaut, 3 points into Physical Weapon Expert to increase our light and heavy attack damage by 2%. I had to throw points somewhere, right? 2% seemed pretty good on my weaves. 56 into Master at Arms to increase our direct damage done by 20%. And the Ritual, we got 56 in the Thaumaturge to increase our damage over time damage also by 20%. And I split these evenly, even though we got the heavy weapons bleed, double damage poisons, and jabs over on this side of the category. We also have Dizzying Swing here. I don't think Power of the Light scales off of this, but it might. I know the initial damage does, but I don't think the ending explosion does. But we got Burning Light here, Dizzying Swing, and all of our light attack and heavy attack weaves. So, nice fair split. 56 into Precise Strikes to increase our critical damage done by 20%. We have a really good crit rating on this build, so that really helps us out too. Especially when them heavy weapons bleeds start critting. Oh my. They hit like a fucking Mack truck in Syria. We got 20 into Piercing to increase our physical penetration by 19. I didn't bother overly investing into this because we have the max penetration buffs that Fracture can provide, being Minor Fracture, Major Fracture. But it's still always good to invest some points here because that's a great return. Take advantage of that front end. And we got 37 into Mighty to increase all of our damage done by 9%. For the Red Tree, the Steed, we got 56 in the Ironclad to reduce our direct damage taken by 20%. 5 in the Medium Armor Focus to increase our physical resistance by 514. I use that as a dump star, by the way. You don't lose anything when you go over, or when you put points in here. Whereas, like, say if I'd put 2 more points in the Ironclad, it wouldn't be to 21%. They wouldn't be really in use. So I put them 5 points here because I couldn't find another star that I really wanted to throw them in. And 32 into Resistant to increase our critical resistance by 889. Get to the Lady. 56 thick skin to reduce our damage over time taken by 20%. 37 into hardy to reduce physical, poison, and disease damage by 9%. 37 elemental defender to reduce fire, frost, shock, and magic damage by 9%. And for the lord, we got 37 into quick recovery to increase our healing received by 9%. Alright, so let's go ahead and go over all the small shit. I have 64 points into stamina. I have a maxed out mount. I'm using the warrior Mastodon. This increases our weapon damage by 238. These are just from having repentance slotted. I'm using dubious Gamoran throne, and that procs bone pirate satyrs. Note that the Arteum broth does not proc bone pirate satyrs, and I believe they changed it back to a food this patch. They actually changed the title of it. I'm not a werewolf. I'm not a vampire. You can if you want to be. There's nothing against it. And the potions I'm using, which I really need to craft some more, are immovable major expedition stamina potions. And these can be crafted with Lorcan's Tears, Blessed Thistle, Columbine, and Amira's Rot. Where the hell is it? There she is. I only had one fucking water. So I'm an Imperial, like I said, but an Orc, Khajiit, Redguard especially. That really helps out our sustain issues on this class. Bosmer. They're all viable choices for this build. So I prefer Imperial because Red Diamond procs a shit ton off of Stamina Templar. I also like the max health bonus being 12%, which is huge. 10% max stam, which matches Redguard. But Red Diamond, this is one of the most underrated passes in the game. It's only good on a Stamina Templar too, because we're the only thing that has enough melee attacks to actually keep this shit up. For no CP, swap out one of these weapon damage glyphs for a recovery glyph, or drop the warrior Mundstone, pick up the serpent, and then use 3 weapon damage glyphs. I'd like to thank you guys for taking the time to watch my build. Shoot me a like and a sub if you guys enjoyed it. If you didn't like it, shoot me a thumbs down and tell me why in the comment section. I'll try to help you out there. Or try to, use the critical feedback, I guess we'll call it. But yeah, this build works very well. It's medium armor though. Like I said, you can in fact run this build in heavy because it's Nightmother's Gaze. You'll need a cost reduction glyph on your jewelry, and you should be able to pull it off fine. But hope you guys enjoyed the build, and go trash some pugs and Cyrodiil. Trout's out.